27.3% of cannabis operators reported overall profitability over the last fiscal year, up nearly 2 percentage points from last year's 24.6. So, with things seeming to be moving in the right direction, optimism remains strong among participating operators. But how long will that optimism last? According to Cannabis Business Times' Tony Lang, cannabis industry focused research firm Whitney Economics announced their preliminary findings from its 2024 Cannabis Industry Business Conditions and Sentiment Survey this week. For those unfamiliar, over the last couple of years, Whitney has emerged as a reliable source of cannabis and hemp industry data and economic research. A breakdown of the survey's results show that in 2024, 27.27% reported profitability, 40.56% of operators said that they were breaking even, and 32.17% said that they were not profitable. All right, so per the article, the survey was conducted in June in order to compile data on the potential impact that cannabis rescheduling would have on small and minority-owned businesses. The initial findings are being compiled for a Minority Cannabis Business Association submission to the White House Office of Management and Budget on impacts that the current scheduling policy has on cannabis operators, particularly those who are minority-owned or small businesses. The survey results indicate that while on average 33.7% of white operators in cannabis are profitable, only 17.5% of their non-white counterparts are profitable. In a press release yesterday, Whitney Economics founder and chief economist Bo Whitney said that the cannabis industry is under economic distress, primarily due to the confluence of heavy federal taxes, lack of access to financial services, and heavy state of federal regulation. Although states have programs dedicated to social equity in cannabis, the fact that most regulators do not track data related to social equity's impact makes it difficult for regulators to know what is working and what is not. Obviously, with only 17% of minority operators being profitable, there is a lot of work to be done in the space, end quote. Furthermore, according to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, 65.3% of all small businesses in the U.S. are profitable, so the cannabis industry is well below national averages. Initiatives are being proposed federally to change federal scheduling or to provide cannabis operators with greater access to financial services. Heavy taxation is one of the top issues facing cannabis businesses, with some businesses facing an effective tax rate of 52.5%, and the proposed rescheduling of cannabis would result in a lower tax burden and increased cash flows. In 2024, the cannabis industry is forecasted to pay an additional $2.3 billion in excess taxes as a direct result of current scheduling policy. Without reform, this excess tax burden is expected to increase to $5.2 billion by 2030. So maybe it's just me, but 27% profitability in cannabis versus 65% in general mainstream business seems like a bad bet to take. At this point, the best comparison would be to the restaurant industry, which is slightly less profitable at 20%. But given all the social and regulatory headwinds cannabis operators face compared to virtually every other industry in America, 27% does seem miraculous. But what do y'all think? Are cannabis business entrepreneurs doing the right thing by staying in the lane they're most passionate about? Will rescheduling actually be that long overdue shot in the arm that the industry's been waiting for? Or is it time for smart people to move the fuck on? I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High 9 News. Let's talk about it.
I mean,
for people
the reason. Go ahead, Jenny. What's that?
I mean, it's time for people who are failing and probably shouldn't have been here in the first place to move on. Yeah, absolutely. I think that this is an industry that is very difficult, and it's an industry that, one, you should be passionate about, but two, it's very easy if you get into it for the wrong reasons, don't know what you're doing, have no idea about the consumer base that you're dealing with, et cetera, et cetera. It's very easy to fail. It's also very easy to fail if you understand and appreciate cannabis but don't have any business acumen. So I think, finding good advisors that can help you fill in the gaps where you need them, or just leaving if you shouldn't be here in the first place. Mm-hmm. Sorry.
Fair. Were you going to say something, Rachelle?
This is why everyone's going into the hemp game.
Speaking of that,
or mushrooms.
speaking of that,
Or literally anything else.
Brian Dombrowski says, I'm coming in hot. If these geniuses would get a foot on both sides of the hemp marijuana fence, they could use that profitable hemp business to pay the bills for their unprofitable marijuana business. I think that's sound advice right there, you guys. You know what I mean? That's the best way to build your brand nationally too.
I would love to. I mean, I would love to dive deeper into that with Brian or somebody else in the hemp industry. Like, yes, you can offset some of that, but how much? Like, and are you still breaking even at the end of the day? And on top of that, like, it's still a long shot that you will be profitable compared to any other mainstream business.
I mean, you could definitely.
There's a lot of competition in hemp because there's low barrier to entry in hemp. So, like, you're looking at, yeah, sure, you've got tinctures and gummies and THCA flower, but so does 750,000 other people. So I think, I would be interested to see how much is. I'd like to see an operator that's saying they're successfully covering their cannabis tax debt.
That's what I'm saying too. I'd like to hear, and I'd like to see some numbers that would support that. I think it's a good argument, but
isn't that
on paper? But I'd like to see the numbers.
Rico, isn't that how True Leaf got that big tax credit, or that they're claiming?
I don't even know.
Okay.
I don't know. Right. They just opened their 143rd store in Florida. Like that's not a monopoly.
I don't think the hemp industry and the cannabis industry are not trying to work together right now. That's part of the problem. Yeah. And the policymakers are putting, dividing lines between them. In my experience in the cannabis industry, is most people's experience, it was overtaxed, overregulated. I don't see a whole lot of relief from that in the near term. And, going to Schedule 3, just think about this. The only product that's cannabis-based that's been approved is a tincture. They don't approve smokables.
Yep.
So all the people that want to get high better think about, you're going to be, loving your tinctures if it goes to Schedule 3, because they're never going to approve a smokable medicine. You're smoking crack if you think the FDA is going to approve a smokable medicine. It ain't going to happen.
I agree with you on that. I'm totally in agreement with you, Dale. I don't see how the FDA can under Schedule 3 can allow people to be selling actual flower.
I think at some point, man, you got to respect the numbers, right? Like, they're talking about all this optimism with the operators saying that, oh yeah, we're moving in the right direction. Like, you're up 2 percentage points. Like, it was like 24.6% last year.
And in all fairness, though, Rico, I mean, that is up, and so it's better than being down. So that is in the right direction. It's just not a big. Yeah,
shout out to the national poll numbers.
Shout out to 2%.
It ain't successful though. Can't put that on the list because it ain't successful. The average startup business, half of them die within 5 years. And we're well past 5 years now, and we're at a third that are actually making money, and 40% maybe breaking even by lying to their accountant. No, this is not a successful industry right now.
At all.
Fair enough. You have any
lipstick on that pig you want? It's still oinking like crazy.
We know you love the hemp space, Stone. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Jason, I can share the screen, my friend. I just, it sucks. You got to really know what you're doing. You got to do everything right, or chances are you're not going to make it. And I think it sucks the way that they've pinned the hemp and the cannabis people against each other, even more so than it's the way you would think alcohol and cannabis would be. But it's fucking cousins fighting each other, and it's pointless. It's
kind of like West Virginia, fucking cousins.
Yeah. Oh man. On that, we're gonna go to a commercial. We're gonna be right back.